Hi, this is Joyce Van Setters. Welcome to the Pink Book series, stories about mental health and art. If there's something that resonates with you, I hope you join. Welcome to the Pink Book podcast. I am your host, Joyce Van Setters. These are stories where we speak to innovators who are doing big things. I'm excited because today I have one of my family friends on, long time friend, Jennifer Jacobs. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joyce. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
I am probably more excited than you. I got goosebumps just thinking about it all day because, we have not talked in a long time when it comes to like our story and stuff.
No.
And it's just something that needs to be told. First off, I feel like I should start a series with you called Growing Uppreneur because, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, but we'll get into all that. But Jen,
totally.
Yeah, let's start with, where are you from, Jen?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, like the New York, New Jersey area, born and raised, lived there all my life until about a year ago, when I moved to the West Coast. So, yeah.
And tell me what young Jen was like.
I was a very gregarious kid. I always liked to be the center of attention. I was quite a ham. And I really had a way about me that was like, don't tell me what to do. I'm going to do it my way. Yeah. And I think that probably set the course for me to become the person that I am today. And just that's pretty much kind of like has been my trajectory in life. Like, nope, let me do it my way. This is the better way.
That sounds exactly like you.
Well.
And Jen, you have a sibling, correct? You have a brother. And
yes,
are you guys close in age?
Matthew. We're 6 years apart. So yeah, we're 6 years apart. I think the best thing about that I love about like my brother and I is that everyone always thinks he's older than I am, but I'm the older sibling.
Yeah, I actually did when I met you thought he was older than you too, but you just seem this is a compliment, immature. I get the same compliment, by the way.
Yeah, it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm very childlike and carefree in certain ways, and he gives off kind of
I got it together.
Pretty much like adults.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever
exactly.
That is.
Talk to me about growing up with entrepreneur parents. How that was as a child.
Well,
they weren't always entrepreneurs, correct?
They weren't always entrepreneurs, but from a very, very young age, I grew up in a household of serial entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I mean, even my grandparents were the same way, just having businesses all throughout my life. So whether I was visiting with them and like working at their 7-Eleven or like my grandmother's furniture store, and then I would go and be with my parents whenever they would go into work, and I would work at their office, or I would go on trips with them. So I was very much raised in an environment that I could kind of be like a sponge, and I could soak up all there was around me. So there was always an element of like business, not the normal like traditional 9 to 5. And that's probably also why when I like fast forward into like the job world, it was really difficult for me to deal with being in a very like regimented, strict kind of environment. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in a world of the most loving and supportive people. And I think like that's really important when you think about an entrepreneur. It's somebody that's like super passionate and loves what they do. And, you know, they will do it until the day that they die. And that was very much instilled in me in a very early age. But at the same time too, it was like the highest highs and the lowest lows. And that was something that I personally, grew up with, not necessarily my brother. So that came at like at a later time, like my parents kind of like moved into a different era of like their own careers. And I kind of rode that wave of like the greatest of greats, and then you know, the not so great times.
Right.
So
tell me about as a child, how tell me about some of those not so great times. I mean, I know myself, it's tough being an
oh my God.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I think of the times where like my parents did whatever they possibly could to make sure that my brother and I were provided for.
Yes.
There was never a part of my upbringing or my brother's upbringing where it was like, no, we're not doing that because either we don't have enough or we don't have the time to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like whatever they could possibly do, whether it was, you know, bringing me into the city for, you know, singing lessons. And that's a whole, I feel like that's a whole nother
Yes.
podcast that we could talk about, but, you know,
Yes.
or, you know, my brother, like wanting to like, compete in like figure skating competitively and all that was involved with that and just like long hours. So, I mean, that very much was, kind of the vibe growing up. It was my parents would do whatever they could possible. But then I
Okay.
also remember there were times where, um, you know, I and my dad and I joke about this to this day. Like I was traumatized as a kid. Like I remember the times when they would forget to pay a water bill or they
Mm-hmm.
would not be able to pay the water bill, and like I would see my dad like running down to the bottom of the driveway because the waterman was sitting there like ready to turn off the water,
Right.
because they hadn't paid the bill. And it's like,
Right.
so it's like those kinds of things. Like you learn how to, I guess, move and shift
Yeah.
with what life throws at you.
Right.
Um, and it really does open your eyes to like, I mean, it makes you think about whether or not you actually are cut out
Yeah.
to be an entrepreneur or cut
Absolutely.
out to have your own business, or you know, go into the job world and pretty much collect a paycheck every
Yeah.
2 weeks. So yeah, it was stuff like that and that's like just a fraction
Yeah.
of the things that were really great and were also like really eye opening, and forced me to realize like the realness
Mm.
of what it's like to have your own business or do your own thing.
Yeah. Talk to me about how you were, what you were like in high school.
Oh my God. Okay, so when I was in high school, um, I had a very like I was well known. Well, first of all, I touched on it before. Like I used to sing professionally.
Yep.
I started doing more of that when I was in high school.
Okay.
Um, and I had I had experienced um I experienced having friend groups that were like very widespread. Like I wasn't necessarily like a super popular kid, but I was very
Mm-hmm.
well known.
Okay.
And I also in a weird way had to deal with people like just bullying me for the way that I looked because of my weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, my entire life, I've always struggled with my weight, and that's how also you and I came to know
Mm-hmm.
each other too. Um, but that was really tough for me, and I think it helped me to grow a really thick skin. But in those really formative high school years, I guess you could say, I had the friendship and the camaraderie from all those people that I knew from school, and I was very very active not only within my own singing outside of high
Mm-hmm.
school, but within like the choir. Like I was always singing solos. Like people always knew me for, you know, for my ability to sing. And I was well liked from that
Okay.
perspective. But I think like behind the scenes, it was really, really difficult because there would be times where I would just feel like I would come home and be like ripped apart by the things that people would say
Yeah.
about me. Um, and it forced me to really like toughen
Mm-hmm.
up and have to just deal. I mean, kids can be awful,
Awful.
like just really awful.
Yep.
And yeah, it caused me to have to, you know, think about, just not only think about like what they were saying about me, but like how I was actually gonna, you know, just move past
Yeah.
it. And it wasn't always easy,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. So we'll talk about how you and I met. We met actually at a gym. um, we both were working there. I was a personal trainer. Jen was working there at the front desk. And, she decided she was going to take me on, and I wasn't going to take her on. She was going to take me on. And she was going to be a client of mine. And that went over really well. And she's, just the personality that she says she is of, we're going to do this my way. That's kind of how our relationship was too. But we both have that same personality, but we actually also fell in love with each other, so it kind of worked. But funny story is, and Jen, I don't know if you know this, we talked about this once before, but before I even actually met you, my husband now, you were his kid's babysitter.
Yeah.
Which is so weird.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. They saw you on Biggest Loser and was like, that was our babysitter, Jen. And I was like, really? I was like, that's my client. They were like, no, that was our babysitter. Yeah, very weird. So all comes together. But let's talk about when you and I met, and you decided to take me on as a trainer. I first want to know the mindset there.
I mean, I pretty much, I wanted to make a change. And I think that's something that I have always, like the mentality I've always had. It's, always being, how can I be 1% better, in my life, like every single day. And so, yeah, it was at a point where I was pretty unhappy. But I was also working, I was working at a gym. We helped open the gym essentially. And it just so happened that I was like, okay, great. Like I can do this personal training. Like this is fantastic. And I really connected with you. I'm not someone that will just freely be like, okay, like I guess I'll do it. I'm very selective.
You are.
And I was like, I was like, Joyce, we're going to work together. Let's work together. Let's do this. And it started from there. I mean, like, I don't think it was anything more earth shattering than just kind of just making a decision and being like, Joyce is the one that I know is going to help me and going to take me there. And that's what I feel started, was the start of our relationship.
Absolutely. And then
personal and professional.
Absolutely. And then over the years, as you navigated through your weight loss journey, tell me how that was as far as like working, and trying to do your own thing and trying to lose weight.
Well, I feel like losing weight has always been my narrative. Like it's always been part of like my story and who I am. But I think like that's just, it's kind of like when you realize like there's a certain part of you that like is within you. I don't know, it's kind of like those are the two things, like that's kind of always been who I am and a lot of my identity. Not to say that's a great thing, but yeah, losing weight for me has been like something that I always felt like I was good at.
Okay.
But I'm also really good at putting the weight back on too.
Okay.
And it wasn't until, I would probably say until Biggest Loser that I really struggled with like believing in myself and what I could do. So there was a lot of that, and it could have also been, my age. Like when you and I met, I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Which, Jesus, that was 20 years ago.
Exactly.
So,
yep. And I was in my 30s, so. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
but I have to tell you one thing. I mean, no matter what, I know you say that was always part of your narrative, whether it's a good thing or bad thing. You have always been someone that has always showed the utmost confidence, presented to me. The way I see you, you've always shown the utmost confidence. I mean, you're a beautiful person inside and out, but you've always shown that you've just been super confident. I don't know whether that's put on. I mean, it can't be if it's this long and you're still doing it. That'd be a hell of an acting job.
I mean, yeah, that'd be pretty tiring, I guess. I guess in a way you're right. I mean, it's pretty much it's kind of like the piss and vinegar that I have in me is like, I'm not going to give up. Like, I'm going to keep persevering, and I'm going to keep doing this. And just because, the hand of cards that's been dealt to me, whatever that is, it might not be, in my mind, what I wanted it to be.
That's actually the
I have a
biggest
choice,
secret.
and the choice is
the biggest secret that everybody's looking for to weight loss or anything is what you just said, to never give up. You're always in the game. You're still in the game if you haven't given up. Exactly. So
you can't. Exactly.
So tell me how Biggest Loser came about.
You're so right.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah. So, so I was a fan of the show. Like, I watched the show all the time. Like, this was back when, like, you actually sat down on a Tuesday night, and at 8 p.m. you watched television every single week.
What is that?
Your favorite, like, what is that now? Like, we don't even do that. I get like mad when like my favorite streaming show like isn't on because it hasn't been like the full week when like the next episode is. So times have changed, obviously, but I was a fan of the show, and I always saw myself in those contestants. I was like, Jesus, I could do that. I was like, all those things, like, I definitely could do that. And like, I think of just, and it probably, if I go back and rewind just a little bit, and even before I even knew you, like when I was in grade school, in fourth grade, like I took martial arts for 4 years, and I was still a big kid. Like I think I learned a lot of discipline, self-discipline, and what it means not to give up. And from that, I think like that also just kind of like also helped to pave the way for me to go after something. And I'm the kind of person, and now I realize this, is like, if I see myself doing something, I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to achieve it. So that was very much a spirit in which I saw myself in those contestants of The Biggest Loser. And it was season 8 that I was watching, and I was like, listen, I see this happening. And like on the commercials, they're always like, do you want to be a Biggest Loser? Like, you can try out. And so I was like, okay, great. So I tried out for seasons 9. I stood online in the rain for 10 hours. Nobody, like at Rockefeller Center at the casting hall, nobody saw me. Like, no, I didn't see any producers. I didn't meet with anybody. And I was like, okay, so we're going to try this again when it comes around. Then I was
never
like,
give
okay,
up.
I'm going to use the power of, no, it was like, okay, next opportunity. And I was like, okay, next season, I want the producers to notice me, and I want them to know about me before I get there. So how am I going to do that? And what I saw was like all these people on Facebook, and this is in the age of like, this is before Instagram. This is when Facebook was really big, and everybody that wanted to do something or get noticed would have a fan page. So I created a fan page for myself, and it was like, get Jen Jacobs on The Biggest Loser. And I garnered all of this support and all of these followers in such a short amount of time. And it actually, it sparked interest in the producers, so much so that when they saw me online in the casting call for season 10, they plucked me out of the line and were like, come upstairs and meet with us. So went through that. Yeah. I mean, I was like, okay, great. Seriously, like, obviously this worked. So I'm just going to go with it. And then I went through the casting for that season, didn't happen. And I was crushed. And I remember like my parents were really, really concerned for me. And they're like, we know she wants to make a change, but like, this isn't happening. And it hasn't happened for 2 seasons in a row. Like, how, like she wants to make a change, but like she can't keep doing this to herself. So, and I said to him, I was like, listen, I believe, and I know that I will be on that show. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it's in my future. And so lo and behold, I found out about season 11. I connected actually with past contestants and took a trip out to San Francisco to run my first 5K on my own, where all these other Biggest Losers were going to be, where they were going to be competing in this like Biggest Loser triathlon. And what was really cool is that I was able to connect with them in a way where like they invited me to their events, and they're like, this girl's so great. Wow. Like she needs to be on the show. I need to talk to somebody. So it was like me taking the leap to put myself out there. I flew across country to San Francisco. I'd never been there. I was by myself, and I was like, I'm just going to run this 5K with these Biggest Losers because I could register for it. And I was like, I'll find a hotel to stay, and I'll just stay there and I'll do it. So that ended up how like I got that like extra like
Yeah.
in. And then when season 11 came about, they're like, we're going to be doing this with partners. And I was like, okay, all right, let me think of how this is going to work. So I was like, let me ask my mom. And I was like, yeah, right. No friggin' way. And then I was like, okay. I was like, okay, I'm going to ask my dad and see my dad wants to do it. And of course, like this is the guy that like literally as a child, like drove me and my family 18 hours to Florida for me to try out for Star Search as a kid. Like, I'm like, he'll do it. So
Right.
yeah, to sing 30 seconds of a song. I'm not even kidding you at
Oh
MGM
my
Studios. Like
God.
I did
Of
that. He did
course.
that for me. So yeah, that's my dad. So that was kind of like how we went into it. And
Okay.
we went to Boston and we auditioned and we made it. We actually, they knew when we were there, and they told us this after the fact. They knew when we were there that we like were on their short list.
Wow.
And I remember I got to the casting table and I just like started bawling. And I don't know where it came from. And I'm not somebody that can just cry on command.
Right.
But I was telling my story and I was crying my eyes out. And when we left there, we had gotten called back to be, to be do like an on tape interview with producers.
Mm-hmm.
And that video ended up being the video that they used as an example for all the other casting directors to say, these are the people that we want for this season.
Wow.
So this is the dynamic.
Yes.
And like how you, yeah, like this is who you need to find for this season. And I mean, we became, as a result, we were the highest viewed season, over 100 million viewers every single week for the episodes of season 11.
Wow.
And I got to do it with my dad, and we came there together and then realized that we had to do things separately.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, I think, a turning point in my life and the rest of my family's life,
Yeah.
really, that like we now understood the power of like how important it is to do it for yourself and take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and always like push to be better.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that was kind of how like Biggest Loser came about. And like I willed that shit to happen. Are you kidding me? I was like, I saw that
You
and I was like, that
absolutely
will be
did.
mine.
Yes.
And it was. So
And I worked with your mom while you guys were away. On Biggest Loser, which I loved. I mean,
mm-hmm.
she was such a delight, and it's how I just pushed myself into your family and became my mom and dad, and my
Yeah,
brother Matt.
my adopted sister.
Yes, exactly. Talk to me about the struggles, or if any, that you had on the show.
Ooh, yeah. So you know how we were talking about before, that tough exterior that I
Yeah.
had to like, that thick skin that I had to, grow, or that I did grow as a result of, being bullied and made fun of growing up for my weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really saw that come out in a way when I was on the show when I first started. That was almost like I was trying to be something I wasn't. I was trying to
Mm.
mask and be tough, and I didn't want to be vulnerable. And I felt as though my vulnerability would be seen as weakness. And
Mm.
so a lot of who I was in the early time, I mean, I'm sure if I was like this behind the scenes, I probably was like this on camera. Um, but it was, there came a point where everyone's like, you need to just like stop acting like the shit. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. Like, it was almost like I was like, I'm on a show with people that could potentially vote me out, and like this is not a good look. It's not helping me. It's not helping my dad. We're here for a bigger reason. So I kind of had to like collect myself really quickly and realize
Mm-hmm.
that like that tough and thick skin wasn't going to wasn't going to help me in this case.
Okay.
So what I really learned how to do was um, I learned how to like channel that, because what we didn't know about the plot of that season was that my dad and I were going to be thrown back and forth from team to team to team to team, um, in so many different ways that it just like I had to learn how to be how to be malleable and
Yeah.
or agile is more like it, how to
Mm-hmm.
be agile in that situation. And I mean, just yet another thing that, like, growing up in an entrepreneurial household,
Yeah.
like, you got to learn how to, swing with it, or roll with the punches. And it served me in that point in the game.
Yeah.
And while I was on that season. So, it wasn't easy. And, I think just as I get older, I get more comfortable with myself.
Yeah.
And, now I don't care as much
Mm-hmm.
what other people think of me. I'm more like, hey, this is me, and that, you know,
Right.
take me for who I am. And if not, sorry.
Exactly.
So,
What would you say your biggest takeaway would be from being on the show?
um, biggest takeaway. I mean, I really think that in that in that in that time that I was there, I really learned that I'm a lot stronger than I give myself credit for.
Mm-hmm. I've
And,
always
like,
told you that.
uh, I know
Mm-hmm.
that. I was just gonna say
Yeah.
other people would tell me that, but I wouldn't believe it
Mm-hmm.
for myself. And it was believing it for myself, um, and going through that experience and learning that actually was
Yeah.
true, would probably be my biggest takeaway. I mean, and the other thing is just, like, I think so many times we fail to see the fact that, like, simple things that we're doing in our
Mm-hmm.
lives can make such a huge impact in the lives of others. Um, that was something that I think, just that ripple
Mm-hmm.
effect, I would never have imagined would have been so big. It completely changed the trajectory and the course of my
Yeah.
family's lives.
Absolutely.
Like, it really, really, truly did. And for the
Yeah.
better. And, like, we talk about it to this day. I mean, I can't imagine where we would be if we would still be, I mean, let alone my dad,
Right.
in, the state of his health at that time. And, my health, and not only, like, my physical health, but my mental health,
Yes.
like, ooh, it was, like, in the
Mm.
toilet. I mean, it really, really was. So, just being able, to have gone through that
Mm-hmm.
experience, um, impacted so many people. I mean, on a larger level, but if I could speak from the people that are, in my immediate circle, I would say, yeah, life now is so much better, and so much
Yeah.
brighter than, it was before.
Good. And when you got home, what was the first thing you did? Like, how was life after Biggest Loser?
Life was really tough after Biggest Loser. So I was thinking to myself, like, how do people do this? How do they, you know, how do they get up and go to work every day, and, like, come home and then have to repeat it,
Right.
like, just over and over? And it's just what life is going to be. And I wasn't feeling inspired.
Mm.
I was feeling like super depressed, and just anxious all the time, because, as I took on different roles and more responsibilities, um, it just became more of the work that in my heart I didn't really feel called to do.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, one door closes and another one opens. I mean, that's what life is about.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, I will say that even though I went back into, I went back into the job world after Biggest Loser, and I really gave it a go. I think that I learned so much about myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew so much that come the time where I lost my job, and then made the decision to kind of take a look at my life, and
Mm-hmm.
make a different choice. um I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready for that.
Yeah. Talk to me about what you're doing now, and what you did after that, because I've watched you from afar, from a stalking distance, on social
It's
media of
okay,
what you're
I love the
doing now,
stalking, thank
and
you.
it's amazing how something that has taken me 4 years, 3, 4 years, and I've had like the fitness uh, industry to back me up. The fitness industry is really, really strong. I was just talking about this on another podcast. You can compete once and you will have like 20,000 followers, and it's all fitness people. They just support each other. That's just how they are. And then you don't compete ever again. They'll still support you. But I've seen you take what you are doing now, and I want you to talk a little bit about that, and blow up your new social media. And with this formula that's just like amazing. And I'm like, okay, this is what people need to see. So talk to me now about what you're doing and how that got started.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because you talk about, you've been in the fitness world, so your background is in the fitness world, right? And it's something that it's so innate to you and comes naturally that it only makes sense that you are able to bring your clients such success through the work that you've done in the fitness industry. So speaking of why I say that is because when I lost my job, and this was in 2023, I really was a shell of a person, and I really didn't know where I wanted to turn, like what I wanted to do, where I was going to turn. And to be quite honest, like the idea of writing a cover letter and updating my resume, like made me want to die.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I just can't do this. I cannot do this anymore. And like, I have to credit myself with saying like, I was in a position where I had an emergency fund, and I was able to really take the time, to figure out what I wanted to do. So after having a job for a career for over 11 years and then not, one, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Like the stress and anxiety of like, just like being afraid to look at my phone for like whatever text I would get or the calls that I would get for the fire that I would have to put out. It was just, all of that like went away. All of it immediately went away. And what I realized is that it was a time for me, and it gave me the space to really get back to who I was as a person and as Jen. Like, what did I want to do? Who is in my life that matter the most to me, and like how could I work to restoring, those relationships and making those connections again that I had truly put on the back burner for so long because I was so engrossed in just having this career of mine. So I took a few months. I mean, it was the holiday season. I went through the holiday season and I took a few months. Before I lost my job, I had booked 4 trips and they were all paid for. And I was like, okay, so we're going to do this. I'm going to go to Aruba. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to go to Iceland, and then I'm going to go to Chicago, and like all of these things, like I'm going to take all these trips. And so in that time, I spent a lot of time actually on social media. And what I realized was a lot of the things that I had done for large brands years ago, before Biggest Loser, now people were doing that for themselves through social media and utilizing social media. And I was like, I've been out of the game for a while. So let me like see what this is about, and let me like figure out if this is something that like I could jump back in to the real world or like the social media world and do, but in a different way. So I took like 3 or 4 months and I just started learning like what was the landscape of social media, how, like, what were people's, what were buying trends, like what were people like watching, what was the algorithm like at that point in time, and like what was the biggest draw to being able to build a brand on social media. And it truly was helping people like monetize what they knew, and like monetize their skills and their experiences in a digital way. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I used to do, but for big brands. Like I can do this for people. So it became like, all right, this is like the world of like people. And I came into it a sponge, like I always have, even as a little kid, I was always like a sponge, like what could I learn? What could I learn? And I was able to quickly realize that like there were people out there that were just like, I just want to make money real quick and I'm just going to buy a course and then I'm going to tell people to sell that course and then like tell them like to like go do the same
Yeah.
thing. And I'm like, this doesn't really work for me. So what I can do is I can actually help people to find their unique voice, and be able to create digital products and services, to be able to sell to their
Got
audience.
it.
And through Instagram growth and email
Mm-hmm.
marketing and digital product creation, that's how I form my business right now.
Wow.
And so what makes me different from like what other people do online is like everyone's like, just pick something you're good at. I'm like, okay, you're going to invest in a business and you're just going to pick something out of the air. No, we're going to look at like, what are the talents and what are the gifts and what are the things that make you you and make you different, because you are your
Right.
niche and you are your brand. So we need to get really clear on what that is. And that's the basis and the foundation of which you're going to start your business. And that's how you're going to set yourself aside from everyone else that's out there, because nobody can be you. And that is
Love
your
it.
superpower. So yeah, and that was where I was like, oh, like I'm now shifting and pivoting with the times and taking what I know. And it makes total sense because there were so many people that were like, I know how to help people make money online, and all those people are just not here anymore.
Right.
They're not here. Like they it wasn't something. And I've even had clients that I work with one-on-one now that I had asked them, I was like, prior to you wanting to make money online, what is your experience within like building a social media presence, creating a brand of your own, any kind of marketing or sales? And they're like, none. There's none of that. And I'm like, that makes sense why that is not working for
Right.
you. So like, let's look at what you are really, really gifted and talented and experienced in, and let's build your business around that. So it's been a lot of fun, and I get to meet people that do so many different things, and help them to be able to get their gifts, like package their gifts in a way that people will want to learn. Like people want to learn,
Yeah.
from you. You have gifts that people will actually pay money for because they are things that you have done, you've seen results in, and like that's what the digital products world, and industry, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that just keeps growing and keeps growing. That's what it's made of. So it wasn't until all of that with losing my job that I realized that I'm like, this is something I actually can get behind and I'm really good at. And if I tell you it's easy, I'd be lying. It's definitely not. Social media, especially when you build your business on social media, is a beast. The algorithm changes all the time, and it's not to say that you have to be a victim to it. It's actually it's the act of being really clear on what your strategy is and continuing to persevere with that strategy and not changing or doing something differently because you feel like the algorithm is going a different way. It's really cool. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. But yeah, that social media is definitely one of those things that that makes it a little bit more difficult, to have a business, like a business of your own, because it just changes and shifts so much. You have to be equipped to and ready to make those changes in your business.
You are definitely ready and equipped. You're definitely still got that entrepreneurial spirit in you, and I love it. I've been watching what you've been doing. I said before, and I love it. I think I'm going to link all your stuff below, so anyone who wants help with that can get it from you. I also appreciate you sitting down with me and talking to me and telling me your story and talking about our story. And I don't know, I'm giddy. I'm so happy to see you. So happy. You moved to California now, and it's funny because that's where this spirit and you got, this happiness started. You did your own thing by going out there, doing that 5K. It only makes sense to me that you live there now. And I'm just really, really, really happy for you, Jen. I love you.
Thanks, Joyce. I love you too. And thank you so much for letting me be here on the show and just chatting with you. It's been so fun. You've made me remember things that like have been like tucked in the back of my
Mm-hmm.
brain. That like you and I have experienced together, that if it wasn't for us talking today, I would have, I don't know how long it would have been before I remember those things. But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I'm so happy to see you doing this, and I just love the fact that I could be a
Thank
guest.
you.
So thank you.
It's my pleasure. I mean, this had to happen. It had to.
And then
And
it
with that,
did.
exactly, we're going to end that there. And I want to let you guys know I am still on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube. And if this is something that resonates with you, please watch because the best is yet to come.